So without further ado, please welcome Sheldon Thompson to the show. Welcome, Sheldon.
How's it going, guys?
It is good. All the way
Good.
from Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, we're suffering. We're suffering in the cold in the winter.
Oh,
This is actually the first winter that I've lived here in the last few years. I was in Mexico the last couple of years for the entirety of the winter, but I decided to stick around and play hockey this year. So I still was in Mexico for a month, but winter here has been pretty brutal. So,
yeah.
but
I
we're
think,
getting through.
yes. I think
We're
I live in
almost
San
there.
Diego
Yeah.
and I can't really complain about a big winter, but it's been a rainy, more rain than we're used to, but
Mhm.
all good. Spring is in the air. And Sheldon's on my podcast. And let me tell you, everyone that's listening knows I love my rabbit holes. And I ran into I must have just seen you on Instagram. And so I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is so fascinating. And here's this like cute kid on there, like, just talking. And I just can tell, like, gosh, he really has done his rabbit hole work. Like he's really
Mhm.
gone down there. But I do a lot of research before I start my interviews. But
Yep.
what the one thing that I'm missing from my research, there was one podcast that at the end of it, she asked you, what have I not asked that you would have wanted me to ask? And it was, tell me how I even began my spiritual journey. And that is really what I want to begin with, because it's kind of, you're a mystery to me. You have this like air about you that you know all this amazing history, and you've done all this, you've had this mind that is always seeking the truth. And I don't know where it began. So let's start there and then let's go down these amazing things that I can't wait. People are going to just like be glued to you, Sheldon.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting story. I think innately I always had these things within me. I don't think that you learn new things. You're just being reminded as you go through this experience. Like the soul is always abundant in information and wisdom. So I know that I'm an old soul and that I've been along this journey for a very, very long time, not just in this lifetime. um, I've had a lot of dreams of past life regression and mediumship and all that stuff, and I'm very connected to the ancient past and all that stuff. But in this lifetime, everything started by watching The Secret, if you know what that
Oh,
is.
really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Huh.
and that was a long time ago. This is about 10 years ago now. So I'm 30 years old now. I was about 20 years old when this all started. And I watched The Secret. I watched it with a really good friend of mine. And I actually did this whole journey with this person. He's like a soul brother. And yeah, when I watched this documentary, it resonated so deeply within me that I know that I shed a couple of tears, because like this makes so much sense. Like, thoughts become things. And before this, I always knew about like the manipulation and the control mechanisms that were in place, as far as like who controls the world and the elitists and the pyramid scheme, pretty much. And I was seeing these things, but so it was always like the dark side, right? I was always seeing the dark side, and fluoride in the water, chemtrails in the air. And I was like, am I the only one seeing this? I'm trying to tell my parents and all this stuff, and
Huh.
no one really gets it. So it's like, it was super interesting to me that I'm seeing the manipulation, I'm seeing the control mechanisms, but no one else is. And then I was introduced to kind of that the light side. When I watched The Secret, it resonated super deeply within me. Thoughts become things. I started taking action on that. Started using manifestation and the law of attraction. Started getting into meditation. Through that process, I started seeing synchronicities. Like 1111 was coming across my path a lot. And I literally thought I was going crazy for quite a long time, because I was seeing this sequence everywhere I went. Like everywhere I went, I was like license plate, billboards, the clock, everything. It was insane how much I was seeing this, and I was like, why? And again, I thought I was going crazy. But I think what changed everything was I followed this account on Instagram, or I followed, I don't know if it's an account anymore, but it was called To Higher Consciousness. And I came across this post, and it was 1111 question mark, is it happening to you? And right there, I was like, wow. And I started doing a little bit of research, and I started figuring out that everyone that kind of cultivates this equanimity, this peace within, starts seeing this sign. So it's like, there's something here, right? And so it kind of intrigued me to go a little bit deeper and to like pursue things like breath work and getting out in nature and just like really trying to figure out what's going on here and who I am. And I remember I woke up one day, dead asleep, and I rolled over and I touched my phone, and it was 1:11 on October 11th with 11% of my battery, and I still have
Yeah,
the
I love that.
screenshot to this day. And that's where I knew that I had something, because I felt it. Yeah, and yeah, I just continued to do what I was doing, and continue to meditate and all that stuff. And I actually have a pretty interesting story. When I was 12 years old, I was playing hockey in my backyard, and I shot a puck and it hit the crossbar, and it went like way up, and it landed beside this tree surrounded by rocks. And the puck actually landed beside this crystal, and it's called a thunderlight. It's purple. It looks like an amethyst. And I kept this crystal when I was 12 years old. I kept it my whole life. I put it in my junk drawer. Years later, I moved to London. That's when I got into like the meditation, all that stuff, and started becoming very attracted to crystals. And then, the one day it just like kind of clicked, and I realized I've had this thing longer than I've had anything my whole entire life. So it was just like, set up and planned. And I feel like I've had it throughout my entire existence. It's very, very special to me. And yeah, like I just started like putting pieces of the puzzle together based on my past and what was happening, in my present. And everything was kind of adding up to, the person that I was supposed to be in, my destiny, and what I wanted to make of it. And yeah, I just kept going, kind of down that road. And through that process, I think that you learn a lot of things through experience. Like I didn't necessarily do so much research, but things would just kind of like, be put in front of me that really resonated and makes sense. And that's, typically the things that I speak about, whether it's grounding or sun gazing or, what the governments are doing, all that stuff. And I like to speak about both sides of the spectrum, because everything in life is balance. And I think that a lot of people kind of get away from that, and they just want to focus on the one side, on the love and the peace and all that stuff. But I think that for someone to be truly awakened, they need to understand the whole story, the whole, every side of things. So that's
Right.
kind
Yeah.
of in summary, that's what kind of started it all. Yeah.
But when you say destiny, what do you mean when you say like find your destiny? What is
I
that?
think I think we forge our own destiny. So, I don't think that it's something that's, necessarily like this is what you're supposed to do in this life. It's something that you kind of find within. And I think that and what I felt was like I have this, innate wisdom and information that's inside of me that resonates deeply with me and to a lot of people that I speak to. And I was like, I think it's my mission to, get this message out and to help as many people along this process. And that's what I define my destiny as, is just to be the light and the giver of what I've received, because you're not supposed to hold on to it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when things come to you that resonate with you, since we only have an hour, I want to get to as many things because you're a wealth of information. And, I think when I found you and I started, I've heard of flat earthers before, or like the pyramids and the 369, the Nikola Tesla. I've heard of that, but I've never like heard it like I hear it from you.
Mm.
And so when I'm listening and I'm learning from you and I'm thinking, oh gosh, it is so interesting to think how the world lives in this like tunnel, and
Mm-hmm.
like, I think, I would guess, I mean, I'm just going to say 2020 kind of opened the tunnel a little bit, and maybe people started to realize there's a little bit more here going on. Like, but
Absolutely.
what would you say, like when 2020 came, what were you thinking?
Well, I mean, I was thinking that from the very beginning, I knew it was garbage. I didn't believe the narrative whatsoever, because I know what they do. I know the control mechanisms that are in place. I've seen it my whole entire life. Before 2020, like there was so much things that were happening that people were so blind to, and all these like setup events. And I don't want to get too deep into this stuff, but when this came around, the first thing that came in my mind was, that's bullshit. Like it doesn't make any sense to me, right? So I wasn't in fear whatsoever. I wasn't manipulated whatsoever. I did what I wanted to do through that process. I moved to Mexico. I got out of the country, and I still was able to live my life, and I wasn't, locked down for very long anyways. Obviously didn't go and get their, jabs and all that stuff. But yeah, I think that did spark a massive awakening with a lot of people, because it was so easy to see how, a small group of people was able to control the rest, right? So I think through that whole, situation that we went through, there was a massive awakening that happened. And even before this, there was a mass awakening that was going on, and they call it the Great Awakening. And I think that's one of the reasons that, my videos and all the things that I did blew up so quickly, was because the things that I was speaking about, like, I've been going through this for such a long time. It's been 10 years that I've been doing these things and going through these experiences, but the majority of people, through this Great Awakening, they just got slammed with everything within like a couple of years. You know what I mean? So they're getting all these tests and like, I was able to like slowly, gradually go through the process and learn and understand. So the things that I was speaking about was resonating with so many people, and I was able to, kind of help them, understand what was going on metaphysically within them, the battles, the demons, all that stuff. And, they were able to get through that process. But yeah, I really think that, what we went through was kind of a spark for a lot of people to understand that, something's not right here.
Right.
This doesn't make sense. Like, did you see, did you see a pandemic? Did you see ambulances in the street? Did you see people dead? Did you see any of this going on? If it wasn't for the media, would you even know that, this deadly virus is going around the world? And the answer is no.
Right.
The answer is no, right? Like, there was places in the world that were wide open, people not in fear, not like, Sweden, Mexico, all these places are wide open. They're doing things every single day. No one's wearing masks, any of that stuff, because they didn't buy the bullshit.
Right.
So, yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay, let's go I'm going to try to figure out how to start my my deep dive with you, but let's start with numbers, because I know your birthday is like 9/1, like a bunch of neat numbers. Like, you so many things that numbers are like you mentioned 11/11. I mean, I'm a numbers person, like, it's 111. Yes, I did it. It's 111 right now.
Oh, wow. there you go.
For me, it is. It's 411 for you.
Yeah.
But anyway,
but that's interesting that you bring up numbers at that time. Of course.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So let's go to like the Nikola Tesla thing, because I think, like, I've been explaining after learning it deeper from you, what you do on a daily basis in regard to that, and how he lived and how that whole process works.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting when I heard about Tesla's 369 theory, and he said, if you only know the magnificence of 369, you'll have a key to the universe. And I already understood before this that the universe was mathematical, and we didn't necessarily invent mathematics. We discovered mathematics. Like, it's a universal language and it's a universal law. And it's found all throughout nature and us, right? Like, everything boils down to mathematics. And that's why people think we're in a simulation, right? So, he figured out that 3, 6, and 9 harnessed higher vibrational energies than the rest of the numbers. And it's through, vortex mathematics. Essentially, like, if you double 1, it becomes 2, 2 double becomes 4, 4 double becomes 8, 8 double becomes 16. And the square root of 16, 1 plus 6 equals 7. Right? Everything comes down to either 1 to 9 when you add up the square root or the digital root of all numbers. And then 7 doubled is 14. So 1 plus 4 equals 5. 5 doubled is 10. 1 plus 0 equals 1. It goes on in that pattern. And then 3, 6, and 9 stay separate. But if you take 3 and you double it, it's 6. 6 doubled is 12. 1 plus 2 equals 3. So it goes back and forth with 3 and 6. But now 9 is separate from that pattern as well. And every time we double 9, it always equals 9. So 9, 18, 27, 1 plus 8 equals 9, 2 plus 7 equals 9, 3 plus 6 equals 9, so on and so forth, on into infinity. So he knew that these numbers possess higher vibrational energies. And he used to use these numbers to manifest, whether it was information. Like, he wasn't someone that, wanted a bunch of money in his life. He just wanted to provide the world with free energy. So he was using these numbers to solve equations. He would use it in his daily life, and that's what I have incorporated as well. So he would stay in hotel rooms divisible by 369, and people call him schizophrenic, but I mean, he was one of the greatest minds of all time, if not the greatest mind of all time. I could argue that. And so I do this in my daily life. Like, when I go to the gym, I'll do 6 exercises and reps of 9 or whatever. Like, it's something that I've incorporated into my daily life. And I wake up, I write 3 affirmations in the present tense, like, I am so happy and grateful for my unlimited abundance and freedom. I'll write those 3 affirmations, and then I'll speak them 3 times each. So then you get 3, 6, 9. And I've been doing this for a long time, and I put it in my social media. So like Infinite Light 369 on TikTok, the video that I did on Tesla's 369, it's got like 9.3 million views, which is crazy. That's like the most, that's the biggest video that I've done. And, you know, my Instagram, Sheldon Thompson 369. So I've incorporated this in every aspect of my life, because I think that, you know, if you desire greatness, you have to start to move like the greatest people on the planet. Right. So,
Right.
Yeah. So that it's pretty interesting. It's not easy to wrap your mind around. Obviously you got to do a little research, and you got to see what resonates with you, and like, you know, take it if you can take it, and leave it if you want to leave it. It's completely up to you. But I can tell you for certainty that, you know, since I started incorporating this code into my life, and you know, thinking in this way, then my reality started to change for sure.
And like what?
I just started seeing more abundance, more freedom in my life, more information was coming in, you know, more peace, more prosperity, all these things. Like, it just started to change in a very positive way when I started using this. And I see this code everywhere. Like it like everywhere I go, I'm always seeing 369 or 9, you know, 36 or whatever it is. Like, this code it literally follows me everywhere I go. And that's how I know it's super, super powerful.
Yeah. Gosh. You know, when you talk about school and how the history books don't even include him, and, you know, there's so many things that we learn in school. I have 2 teenage daughters that, you know, I'm watching what they're learning and going, oh my gosh, especially where I am now in my life. But it's, you know, when you go, like, when you talk about, like, I want to go to like the giants and I mean, I was just watching that video about, there was one that said the San Diego Giant.
Mm.
That was never recorded or whatever, taken away.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
explain how you view kind of history and what they hide from that, like what that we don't learn in our history books.
Yeah. I mean, history is literally, it's funny because the English language has been completely manipulated to be, I guess, spelling. It's literally spelling. And that's why they called history, because it's his story. So whoever conquers ends up rewriting the history books, and that's what they've done. They've left out significant pieces of our history, and all you got to do is do a little research. Like, they left out, you know, the Sumerian tablets, the emerald tablets of Thoth, right? Like the Egyptian god of wisdom, Hermes Trismegistus, like all of the Egyptian mythology. They left out all of these things. Giants are extraterrestrials. Like, again, you do a little bit of research and you see, like, you know, there's been giant skeletons found out all over the world, giant doorways, like the pharaohs were depicted as giants, like, you know, and it's not even like you don't even necessarily have to call them giants. They were just much bigger human beings than us, right?
Right.
So but it's super, super, super easy to see that, you know, they left out some of the most significant pieces of history, and that our history right now and what they tell us is a complete fabrication and a lie. And they do that because they don't want you to discover your true potential and your true power, and to realize that, you know, we have the ability to harness free energy. We have the ability to not, you know, live on grid. We can live like these societies that absolutely flourish, but they don't want it. They don't want that. They want to keep you in this bubble. They want to keep you in this societal system where you're paying your bills, you're going to work every single day. You know, you're slaving for something that doesn't even exist, which is money, you know, printed out of absolute thin air. And that effectively makes you a slave, right? So, you know, the people that are in power want more power, and they do that by hiding information, hiding the true nature of, you know, how this world works, where it came from, how it looks. Like, the whole thing, everything is a lie. Everything that we've ever been indoctrinated with since birth has been a lie, and I know that for a fact.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Sheldon. So explain to me in a new, like, way, this flat earth. Because when I listened to you explain, I was like, oh my gosh. So I tell the girls, did you know that the earth's flat? They're like, Mom. I said, I was listening to Sheldon talk, and he was saying, you know, that water can't curve. You know, like, you know, so go there.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the thing. If you're indoctrinated with something for so long, like ever since birth, like you go to the movies, you watch a movie, you see the globe, like, you know, like, this has been something that's been completely installed into your subconscious mind since a very young age. So even when I first heard this theory, it's the same thing as, you know, your daughters would, like, that's crazy, it's nonsense. And I literally remember saying the same thing, but because I know that ignorance is bliss, and I think the true form of ignorance is knowing absolutely nothing about a topic and doing no research on it and still speaking
Right.
about it. I think that's the true definition. So, I started doing my own research and my due diligence, and I started realizing a lot of things like, well, there is definitely something here. Like, they've never, ever, ever been able to record curvature ever. That there's no study that's ever recorded curvature ever. And they say the curvature of the earth is 8 inches every squared mile, yet we can see, mountains from hundreds and hundreds of miles away that should be, many kilometers below the curvature of the earth. Like, this study's been done so many times. Lasers that are like 6 feet above sea level that will go hundreds of miles and hit their targets, right? It should be impossible. And then, you take water and the physics of water, like, water always finds its level no matter what it is. That's why we have canals. Water can never curve. They've never done an experiment where water curves. And, the definition of science is something that you can observe, measure, and repeat, right? So when you start doing these experiments and you can observe these things, you can measure them and you can repeat them, that's the definition of science, right?
Right.
But then when you take gravity and they're like, oh, we don't know what gravity is. It's just this force that can, hold the weight of the oceans down, but it can let a butterfly fly gracefully. Like, none of these things make sense, right? They don't make sense. If you actually look at it, do your due diligence, dig a little bit, and put the piece of the puzzle together, they don't make sense, right? Every single ancient culture in society knew that there was a firmament, that we were, it's not necessarily a flat earth, but it's it's a level plane with hills and valleys, right? And and the thing with me was I didn't just like go on the computer and research this. I actually go outside and I observe these things, right? I observe every single day what's going on, like the movement of the sun, the stars, the moon, all that stuff. I could see the moon in the daytime almost every single day where I live. And where my parents live, I always put my feet on the ground and I would watch the sunset. And where the sun sets in the winter or in the summer versus where it sets in the winter, it sets way more east. So it'll be set every single day. It gets further and further and further away, which makes sense on, like the flat earth model. Like the sun is getting further away from your space. That's what makes winters, right? But the sun is 98 million miles. Think about that, 98 million miles away. And we got this tiny little earth that's 1/100th of the side of the sun. How do you get perfect seasons like that? That makes no sense, right? It's just, you just got to like put 2 and 2 together. And it's so funny that like what they tell you is so far from the truth. It's so far from the truth. Like, it's like for someone that's like has seen it and knows what's going on and observe these things, what they tell you is so far from the truth that they probably could have put together a better explanation, but they literally do that to just laugh in your face and be like, look how stupid these people are for buying this, right? Like, you are so dumb for buying this. And that's literally what it is. But yeah, it's so easy to see. Like, again, I go sun gazing almost, when I can, right? And
explain that to people. Explain the benefit of that, because I was explaining that to someone yesterday.
There's many benefits, but you can only sun gaze like 30 minutes after the rise and 30 minutes before the set, right? Like, I just wanted to make this point where it's like, if I can stare at the sun and it doesn't hurt my eyes 30 minutes when it rises and 30 minutes when it sets, but I can't stare at the sun at noon when it's right above me, how is that possible if the sun is 98 million miles away and the earth is right here and it's spinning? That makes zero sense at all, right? It would make sense if the sun was local and it was going around, our flat, non-rotating earth, and it was further away from me when it was the sunrise, way further away from me, and then very close to me when it's noon. That's why it's super hot when it's noon. And it's cold in the mornings, and then it's cold when the sun set, right? Like, think about it. But yeah, the very, very beneficial practice. I've been doing it for a long time. The ancient Egyptians used to, practice sun gazing and worship the sun, and they knew that the sun was the giver of all life. And when you use sun gaze, it will improve your eyesight. So like I said, 30 minutes when it rises, 30 minutes when it sets. It's safe to stare.
I didn't know that. Like, I need my eyes to be better. I'm going to be doing that.
It'll improve your eyesight, elevate your consciousness. It'll raise your vibration, and the sun is the giver of all life. Like, so this is what opens up your third eye, stimulates your pineal gland. Yeah. So it's a super important practice. I've been doing it for a very, very long time. And it upgrades your DNA. And the Egyptians knew this, and that's why they depicted it in their iconography. Like the sun rays would reach the eyes of the ancient Egyptian god, and it would be presented with the Ankh. And the Ankh is
Oh,
the
right.
symbol of eternal life. Yeah. So
Yeah.
um
To explain that, because that's a cool thing too, the Ankh
yeah, the Ankh
versus
is
the cross.
yeah, the Ankh is an Egyptian symbol, and again, it's the symbol for eternal life. So it has both the feminine and the masculine aspects. So it's got the womb and the ovaries, and then the male's genitals, seed of life, and then the ovaries. So it brings the masculine and the feminine together, which creates life, right? And the cross is only masculine. So the cross has actually been ripped off from the Ankh, and I believe religion was man-made by the elitists, and in the Bible was written by the governments, and that's why they're like the book of revelations, everything's coming true, because everything is an agenda. It's like predictive programming, all that stuff, right? So yeah, I always rep the Ankh, because it's the symbol of eternal life. It represents peace, it represents love, it represents duality, spirituality, whereas the cross only represents the masculine aspects, which can only result in death, war, and oppression. So
Right.
yeah.
I meditate to like certain number of megahertz, but
Mhm.
you talk about the well, first of all, cats purr at 111. They're like cure cancer. I want you to talk about the cats, and then also that ear, that formation that's in the shape of an ear.
Yeah,
What is that
it's called
called?
it's called the
Oracle chamber.
the
Oracle
oracle
chamber.
chamber. Yeah.
Yeah. Will you talk about that?
Yeah. So, frequencies, Nikola Tesla said it himself. He said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So everything is energy, everything is frequency, everything is vibration. Nothing is at rest, everything is moving. So scientists know, and they know to this day, and they've known for a very, very long time, that frequencies can cure disease. And that's why, like, a cat's purr has a resonance from, I think it's like 20 to 140 hertz. And they've recently found out that 111 hertz frequency does in fact kill cancer cells. So that's why, like, if you're ever, like, a lot of women will talk about how, when it's that time of month, if they have cramps, the cat will come around, start purring. Like, if you're in pain, the cats will come around and start purring. I have a friend, she tore her ACL, and the cat will always lay on her leg and start purring and giving healing energy. And yeah, so that's super, super interesting. Cats are very unique creatures. That's why the Egyptians worship them. You got the Great Sphinx, and they depicted them in their iconography, and they always kept them super close to them, not only because they were healers, but because they were protectors of the spiritual realm as well. Like, you ever see a cat will just start freaking out over nothing, it'll just start going crazy.
Right.
That's because they're super connected to the spiritual realm. They see energies, they see entities, all that stuff, and they're the protectors of that space for sure. So that's why they always kept them around. And yeah, but frequencies are super, super interesting. The Oracle chamber in Malta, one of the oldest underground chambers ever discovered, it was shaped, it was designed the exact same way a human ear was designed, in a resonant frequency of 111 hertz. So it was a sound healing chamber, and they know that. And again, that's something that has been left out of our history books. No one knows about these things until someone talks about them. Right? Because we haven't been taught it, because they want to keep you dumbed down and ignorant to the truth. And the fact of the matter is, they own big pharma. They own everything that makes you sick. They own everything that cures you, but it doesn't cure you. It's one big monopoly, and it's all to keep you in shackles.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about dolphin birth, dolphins, like the telepathy that those water births about the dolphins, I had never heard of that. And I love dolphins. We explain that powerful way of birthing a child and what that does to the child.
Yeah, it's a super interesting topic for sure. And there was a guy, his name was, I think, Igor Tarkovsky, and he assisted in many dolphin assisted births. And essentially what would happen is, they would take over the birthing process. So they would swim around the mother, they would relax her with sonar, and the birth would be really quick. And I heard it's painless too. I can't speak about that, but I heard it's actually pretty painless and very quick. There's a video online of a dolphin assisted birth that you can actually go check out. And yeah, it's like instant, right? And that's the way a birthing should happen too. Like our whole birthing process is bullshit. Like the way that you lay on your back and all that stuff, that has never happened in our history. That makes no sense, right? Because it's density, buoyancy, like, you like, why wouldn't you be standing up, squatting, right? So it makes no sense. But yeah, so after this happened, there was retreats that people can go to that they can pay all this money to get dolphin assisted births, and then governments ended up shutting them down and all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, too much stuff going on. And it's funny because in the comments of that video that I made, there were so many people, so many mothers that were like, oh, I wasn't able to get in the water in like, in the Dominican or whatever, like to swim with the dolphins when I was pregnant, because the dolphins would only pay attention to me. They wouldn't pay attention to the trainer. Yeah. So they're very aware. And yeah, it's hypothesized that the dolphins heal and boost the systematic function of the babies by telepathically communicating with it prior to the birth and when they're birthing it. So like they're communicating through that whole process and telling them what to do. Amazing. Essentially. And it's funny because the babies in the testimonials of these dolphin assisted births, they would be so much further advanced than the average child. They could talk and walk earlier. They'd be the head of their class. They'd skip years of school, getting full rides at prestigious schools and all this stuff, going on and do great things. And yeah, apparently it's because, the dolphins would communicate it with it, prior to the birth, which is pretty interesting stuff. Yeah.
At least I have 2 daughters. Maybe by then their time to have a baby.
Yeah.
That'll be in
the new world.
In our new world.
Yeah.
So now so the bees. Okay. So the honey, the bees, the beekeepers, that story.
Yeah. The bees are super interesting. I mean, without them, we wouldn't even survive, right? So they're very, very magical creatures. And not a lot of people know this, but the average lifespan of a beekeeper is much longer than any other lifespan of any other profession on earth. Yeah. So they're expected to live much longer. And it's because, when bees jump from flower to flower, they emit healing frequencies and healing energies as well. And a lot of beekeepers will talk about how, like, when they're doing their job, it feels like kind of a meditation. It's a very, very Zen zone. And there's been a lot of comments that, attest to that on that video as well. And I've had, after I made that video, I've had pretty unique encounters with bees. And I feel like they've been thanking me, if you will. Like I remember I was down at the gorge in Niagara Falls there, and I was meditating. I was doing breath work. I did a little microdose too before this, but I got up after it and I was like, I just literally had visions of bees. It was crazy. And I was talking to my buddy about this. Man, I made this video and like it's got like 1 million views, and I feel like I did a really good thing, because at the end I was like, just do your part to protect the bees, because that's what we need to do, right? And then right after I said that, a honeybee came like right in front of my like vision right here, and it was just like flying right here, and it was just like I was super connected to it, and I was just like, I just knew it was like kind of thanking me.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah,
you just sparked a thing in my mind. Okay, I was watching that video. I'm getting ready for your interview. It was last week. And I said to Presley, I'm like, Presley, this bee it was so stormy. The bee was like glued to my windshield, and I'm on the freeway and I'm looking at this bee going, oh my gosh. So we get to school or wherever we're going. And I said, gosh, this bee hasn't moved. And then it moved. And then Presley, like a few minutes later, Mom, the bees are back. Now that maybe they're thanking me for watching your video.
Yeah. Spreading awareness for sure.
So
it's all connected somehow,
Oh, it all is connected. We're all one. And I know you know that. And it's all about love. And I love everything that you are about. I resonate with I resonate with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about this one video about getting into a lucid dream. And like, I try to teach my daughters, like they're singing and they do pageants and they are they're on the crew team, and, in their life, how to like visualize. And, when you go to bed, like, start to, think of what you want to create and see if you can, we always talk about our dreams, but you talk about how in our dreams, it's the closest we are to our subconscious mind. And that if you are working out in your head, like doing push-ups in your brain and lifting weights, you see that you can see the results.
Mhm.
Explain that one,
Yep.
Sheldon.
You have to be in a lucid dream. So there's a
Right.
difference between just dreaming and being in a lucid dream. So being in a lucid dream means that you're aware that you're dreaming. Once you become aware that you're dreaming, then you can take over your dream and you can literally do whatever you want. And that could happen through a lot of different processes. I won't explain that, but yeah, essentially what happens is, like, if you're working out in a dream, for example, the same muscles will fire as if you're working out in real life. And they know this. They did a study on this. I think it was in the UK. But yeah, the same muscles would fire when they were like running in the dream. The exact same muscles would fire, and they would become, physically stronger and like improve in their physicality rather than them just working out in regular life. Yeah, so it's a pretty interesting and unique thing. And I've heard stories of people that will study in their dreams, like go, have a lucid dream, be aware of it, study for an exam or whatever, and they'll be like weeks and weeks and weeks ahead, as if they were just doing it, because you're literally tapping directly into the subconscious mind instead of just doing it consciously. And the subconscious mind is hundreds of times more powerful than the conscious. Yeah. So it's pretty interesting stuff. I haven't mastered lucid dreaming. I haven't
That's what I was
mastered
going
these
to ask
things.
you. Okay.
Yeah. But there has been several times where I have got into a lucid dream. The one time was through like a numbers experience. I remember I was in this dream, and like I was seeing like numbers, almost like the Matrix. And then I realized that I was in a dream. I was like, yo, I must be dreaming right now. And then as soon as that like flipped, it was like almost a portal opened, and like I kind of went through it to like this different dream state, and I was able to like fly and do all these things. And yeah, I don't know. It's very interesting stuff. It definitely resonates with me. I haven't had direct experience with it, but based on the research that I've done and some of the studies that I've seen, yeah, it definitely makes sense for sure.
Yeah. I know you do the sun gazing, you do the grounding. I'm a big
Yep.
believer in the grounding.
Yeah.
What else do you do? You do the cold plunges?
Yep. Cool. Like every single day, it's gym. I've been doing the cold plunge before the gym, hit the gym, let the body warm up naturally, because apparently there's been studies that show that it increases testosterone by, up to 5-fold, which is crazy. And the sauna. So yeah, cryotherapy, and just working on the physicality, working on the mindset, meditation, grounding, sun gazing.
Explain grounding to people, because you haven't explained the benefits, because that's just crazy. Amazing.
Yeah. Grounding, I learned about a long time ago, and there's a documentary. If you guys want all the science behind it, go watch a documentary. It's called The Earthing Movie, and they'll explain all the science and stuff behind it. But essentially what happens when you put your bare feet on the ground, that's what grounding is you put your bare feet on the ground, is your body instantly saturates with electrons, and those electrons will coat your red blood cells, which essentially makes your blood thinner. So it's easier for the heart to pump blood. Your blood pressure goes down, blood viscosity goes down. And amongst many other things, it increases sleep cycles. So your body's electric. Like, we are electrical beings, right? So when you put your feet on the ground, it's pretty much the same thing as plugging your phone into a charger, right? And you can feel these benefits. They say that. Second. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, they say that if you do it for like 10 to 15 minutes before physical activity, it'll increase a lot of things in your body, make you stronger, make you have more energy, make you more agile, things like that, make you a little bit looser. So I'll do that before I play hockey or I go to the gym. But yeah, one of the biggest things with grounding is it decreases inflammation in the body, and inflammation is at the root of most diseases. Right. So they've done studies where it's like, they'll show like the before pictures, and then the after pictures, like 30 minutes of grounding is the after picture, and the inflammation is significantly reduced in the body. So many benefits. I think that rubber shoes were introduced purposely by the elites to intentionally sever the connection with us and the earth, and that's why there's very, very wise people. You go to Jamaica, you go to these third world countries, and they'll tell you like your shoes will make you sick. And they know.
Oh,
so very interesting. Definitely, put your feet on the ground. If you live somewhere where it's the winter, a lot of people ask me, like, if it's a winter, there's snow on the ground. If you just go and you touch a tree, you're grounded.
Okay.
So yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we have grass in the front yard, and I was like, okay, I'm doing that in the afternoon, and listening to what it does for me. I'm like, and then I'm running this morning, the dogs, and I'm like, now I'm going to be touching the trees. Well, I'm like very into the trees.
Tree hugger.
I'll just be a tree hugger.
Yeah.
Okay. So why you intrigue me, and I need to understand this, is you have you talk about your stuff, the meditation, the grounding, the sun gazing, the cryotherapy, the sauna, the workout, the hockey. And what do you do? 9 to 5, you quit your 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, I don't work a 9 to 5.
I know, but
Yeah.
so you quit that, but you talked
Yeah.
about the universe never rewards comfort.
It always rewards discomfort.
It always and I will be a testament to that in every part of my life. Every time I just said, I'm done, I'm going to figure this out with nothing. It always, and when I heard you say that, it always works out. Always.
Yeah. Yeah.
No
The universe rewards like people that dare to jump into the unknown. And I always like that word jump is like something that I always tell people to do, and something that's really huge in my life. Like, just jump, just do it, just go. Jump into the unknown, get uncomfortable, because through that process, you start to see that, again, the universe just rewards you for like going into the abyss, going into the dark, and not knowing what's going to happen, and then realizing that you're actually just landing on a feather bed. And like, that's literally how it is. Yeah. So when I was out west for a while, after I left London, I drove out west to work on the rigs for a few years to save money to start my first business. And, long story.
What do you mean?
The oil rigs.
Oh, the oil rigs. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the hardest job you can do, pretty much. Like, so I had to sacrifice. That's a big piece of it too. You got to sacrifice in order to get where you want to be. You have to leave things behind. You have to leave people behind. You got to leave, situations behind, comfort behind, all that stuff. You got to sacrifice in order to become the person that you want to be, for sure. And so I went out there for a few years, slaved. One of the hardest things that I've ever been through. Save money, start my first business. It was successful in the beginning, ended up failing, long story short. And then I was laid off. This is when COVID was starting to happen. And I was faced with this decision. And it was like, go back to work or go to Mexico on my last dime, pretty much, figure it out, decide to do it. And, through a lot of, like, we were going back and forth whether or not we were going to do it, like, just a very scary thing. And that's the scariest part, is the first one. And
is the first jump, you mean?
First jump. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Sure. That's the most scary part, because then after that you start to realize, like, okay, this is what you're supposed to do. So now every time I'm faced with this decision, I'm just like, go do it. Run it.
I always say, like, once you do that, you look back, I did that, I can do that. If I can do that,
exactly,
I'll do that. It just keeps the ball keeps rolling.
Yeah, exactly. So I was faced with that decision, and I finally decided to jump through a bunch of synchronicities and advice from, guides and angels, pretty much.
But you're getting through meditation, or what? How are you getting those advice?
There was many things. I remember I was on a TikTok live, and my grandma just had passed, and she's super, super close to me. She's my angel for sure. I would see her in my dreams. She's on my ankh. I have her tattooed right here too. Oh. And I remember I was on a TikTok live, and this person was commenting on it. She was a medium. She's like, I had no idea who I was. I never really brought this up or anything, but she's like, your grandma's on your right side, over your right shoulder. That's why I got the tattoo. But it's an ankh, and then the wings, and then her name on it. But she's like, your grandma's on your right side, and then she's like, she just wants you to know not to overthink your decision, just to jump, just to go. Yeah. So that was one of them. And then I remember on New Year's, me and my buddy who I did this whole journey with, that I was talking to, he was the one that came with me, and we didn't know what we were gonna do. We ended up doing we did some magic mushrooms that day, and then it was a very, very terrifying experience for me for like the first half of it, and then the last half was a very beautiful experience. So there's a lot of learning in it, and like through this whole process, there was just so many, like, just crazy synchronicities, numbers, all that stuff. That's just like, yo, just jump, just go, just do it. And that's when we decided, all right, we're doing it. We're just going to go, we're going to wing it, see what happens. And, it was like with it, we were struggling for a little bit when we were there, maybe like a month. And within like a month and a half, we made more money than I've ever seen in my whole entire life. So it was
Doing what?
do crypto.
Oh, okay.
So we trade what we call like shit coins, like low cap coins. And that's kind of what I do on
Okay.
the side anyways. And I just feel like money always comes as a byproduct for doing what you're passionate about, for service. Um, I heard this quote one time and it stuck with me, and I'll remember it for the rest of my life. And it's one of my favorites. And it was like, instead of trying to make $1 million, try to serve 1 million people.
Mm.
And so when I stopped focusing on making money and started focusing on service, the money started coming as a byproduct. And now it's just always coming. It's always flowing. It's energetic. It's so like, I always tell people that one of the things that really changed my life financially was associating the feeling of spending money with a feeling of abundance instead of a feeling of lack, because 99% of people that spend money have a feeling of lack when they spend it, right? It's
Right.
that feeling of lack that attracts more lack.
Right.
So every time that I spend money, wherever I tap my card, whatever, I always just like, and it's like literally like engraved in my subconscious mind now, where it's like, I am so happy and grateful that this money comes back to me in increasing ways and possibilities. So like, I just associate spending with more abundance, and it's always coming in, it's always flowing in. That's just what happens now.
Yeah, I love that. I do that when we get to the mailboxes, I tell if who's the girls are with me, they bring the bills in. I said,
Be a check in the mail.
thank you for but also like putting the bills in the, like to mail them, like, thank you for the abundance that we get to pay these bills. And then and then I get whatever I just, it's always, I'm looking for that. And I feel like, me as a mom raising kids these days, to have the outlook on life and to see that, to look for the magic and to know that it's always there, and the synchronicities, and it's so fun and such a beautiful experience as a mother to have those, tools in my toolkit or whatever, to share and to show them this universe and a whole new light. And I think when you talk about like schools and, I really feel like we're moving forward. I know it's small, but like when you're a dad, is that a goal of yours? Is that something you want to do?
Yeah, at some point for sure.
What is important to you as a father? Like, what would you say? Like, I really want to be a dad because I want to.
I feel like I have a duty to this world to repopulate as many of me's as possible. So that's first and foremost. I feel like the society is really, really missing that, wise alpha, sort of aspect, where it's more like, these conditioned betas that, are essentially slaves, and they can't think for themselves. And that's a big reason why we're in such a dilemma now, is because there's not enough free thinkers like me. So, I think just raising kids based on my morals and helping as many people as you can, and always be a good person, and do good for others, and live life as happy as possible, and spread as much love and light as possible, and be the best person you can, be as physically strong as you can, be the best at things that you're passionate about. All these things, things that fit into my moral compass, I want to kind of install into my children. And I think that has to happen, not necessarily for me, but it has to happen naturally. I think that they have to have a degree of suffering in their life, especially if they're males, because I don't think that without suffering comes any sort of growth. If they're just handed everything, then it is what it is. If they're female, then it's a little bit of a different story. Like, but if I'm to have children and they're going to be males, I think they're going to have a degree of suffering in their life. They're going to have to have, a degree of competition. They have to see the world for what it is. I'm going to teach them about, obviously, things like meditation and visualization, the same things that you're doing, and just try to, give them the best opportunity to have the best life that they can possibly have. And that has to happen through, like I said, things like, suffering and failures and
Right.
hardships and all that stuff, because that's what makes a person who they are. Like, I had to go through a lot of shit. I had to have a rough kind of upbringing and not the best relationship with my father, to kind of see, the father that I wanted to be. Cause I in my relationship with my father, I want to be the exact opposite.
Oh, really?
Of him, for sure. And he's the exact opposite. And I feel like, the universe kind of showed me the other end of the spectrum. Everything is balanced. He's the exact opposite side of the
Oh,
coin as
wow.
me.
He
Yeah,
is?
exact opposite side. Yeah, like
Huh.
he's pessimistic. Watch the news. Like I would
Oh
grow
my
up and like
gosh.
you need to watch the news to stay informed, and alcoholic, all that stuff. And
Huh.
so yeah, but it was through that process where I just none of what he ever tried to tell me resonated. And I'm not saying he was a bad father. Like, he was still a good father. He put me through hockey, and he would, go on those road trips and all that stuff. But when it came down, like, the person that he is, I never wanted to be like, and I never will be like. But it kind of set an example for me when I was like, I never want to be that father to my children. I want my children to look at me like a superhero,
Right.
and that's exactly what's going to happen.
Right. Knowing I know what you believe, like looking as I think I do, but as your dad, like, thank you, Dad, for showing me the opposite in this life that
Yeah.
made, like, almost forced you to like see the your light more.
Hmm.
Don't you think?
Exactly. Yeah. No, 100%. Everything happens for a reason. I believe that, we kind of we choose what family we're going to be put in and all that stuff before we come here, when we sign that soul contract. That kind of resonates with me, where it's like I chose that situation. I chose to have a father like that is the complete opposite side of me. Because again, if everything's sunshine and rainbows and all that stuff, like, it's just like there's no point to it, right? There's no growth, there's no
No.
lessons, right? So I had to see you know what he was doing, and what he still does, and what he goes through. And like, he wakes up at 2 a.m. still. He's 60 plus, maybe 62, 63 years old, waking up at 2 a.m., going to work every single day, slaving for the man. And it's like,
Wow.
yeah. And I'm sitting here on the other side, like 30 years old, like free and
Huh.
and abundant, and traveling and waking up when I want and going to bed when I want, not answering anyone, all that stuff. And it's because of the life that I curated through my mindset and what I believed. And I know that opportunities are different nowadays. Like, there's a lot of ways you can make money online and all that stuff, and create an audience on social media. So my opportunities are different than his opportunities were, for sure. But I I don't necessarily believe that's an excuse. I think that anyone can change at any time. Anyone can learn anything that they want if they choose to, and they can choose to change their situation. But for he's just so it speaks to a lot of people that are in his generation. Because I mean, you grow up watching TV, and you don't have this abundant source of information that we have, right?
Right.
So you're just getting fed this one source of information. The internet was probably the greatest thing that ever happened to us, as far as like trying to wake us up, right? Because now
Right.
people they have the choice to go through all this different information and see what resonates with them, instead of like just watching the news and listen to your teachers, right? So
Right. Right.
yeah.
Who's your mentor? Like, who do you look up? Would you say, like, oh, I really, if I had to be in the presence of one person, it would be this person?
um it's a good question. I don't necessarily have any, like, I used to watch Ralph Smart a lot, Aaron Doughty, when I was going through my spiritual journey. But a lot of these things I kind of just picked up on myself. But if I was to be in the presence of one person, and I wanted to be in the presence of one person, it would probably be Nikola Tesla.
Okay. I kind of
Yeah.
thought you might have said that.
Yeah.
And then, you talk about God and being all one, and,
Hmm.
and how you describe that is a beautiful way. And will you, what is your, like, past lives, time? We'll end on this. So we're wrapping it up. But what
Okay.
is your, like, the way you would describe, like, why we came to this earth? You say you're an
Mm.
old soul.
Yeah.
You say, I mean, I feel like I know just from what you're interested in and what you want to know, because it must resonate within you from past lives. So
Hmm.
everything's happening now. Can you go into that and how you see it, so we can wrap it up?
Yeah. It's very interesting. I think that we all came from source. I think that we are all a piece of that. So like, we're that divine spark that created the universe also created you. So you are the universe. Like, it's like, if you take a cup and you dip it in the ocean, that cup, that individual, that's you. But what's inside that water is still a part of the whole, right? So that's
Right.
kind of how I just describe it. Like, we're all different branches of the same tree. We're all having these unique experiences, but innately we're all the same within, and we are all God. And I think that we came here to learn, to experience, to grow. I think that the creator wanted to experience itself. So it started just, creating and branching off and manifesting this reality. I think that the earth is a testing ground. I think that's one of the hardest testing grounds that there is. I think there's a lot of souls that are still waiting to come here and to go through these trials and tribulations. And we know how tough it is, right? Like
Right.
our lives on a daily basis, like it's not an easy journey. But I think that, through the suffering and through, everything, the failures and the heartbreaks and all that stuff, we start to realize, who we truly are. Like the more we go through these experiences, the more synchronicities that we see, the more we tap into ourselves, we start to realize that we are one with the divine, and we are one with the universe, and that, we are connected to everything. And I think that through that process, through learning that innate truth, is where the most happiness and fulfillment comes from, and profound, and like just like the most profound things happen to you. And it's so beautiful to know what I know and what my truth is, and that I am, the co-creator of this reality, and I am one with the universe, with God, with the divine spark, with consciousness, with this intelligence that created everything. So that's what I believe, and that's what resonates within me, and based on what I experienced, I know that this was created for me, and also for you at the same time.
Right.
So,
And then when you die, what happens when you die?
I think it just continues. I don't think that we die. I think energy just transfers. And I think it just continues in whatever way. Either we elevate, or, maybe what we do in this lifetime determines our next lifetime. So like the person that we are in this lifetime will determine who we become in the next lifetime. And I kind of, that always resonated with me, because I see people around that have very unfortunate circumstances, whether they're like, really short or just not very good looking, whatever. And I'm like, the first thing that I think about is like, what did you do in your past life? You know what I mean? Like, I really truly believe that the person that we are in this lifetime will determine what happens in our next lifetime, whether it's elevating into new levels, just spirit beings coming back here. But nothing ever truly dies. It just transfers. So it's just an energy transfer. Yeah.
But coming back here, even though that's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
So another part of your soul is experiencing the next life.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to wrap your mind around these things, right? I mean, I could sit here and guess, but I guess there's no way to ever know until we pass on. But exactly. I think that the soul continues to reincarnate into this reality until you've learned all the lessons and you've mastered your mind. You become the mental master. Yeah.
And then you kind of have a choice. You're not standing in line, like you say, there's souls waiting to come to earth. Yeah.
I think that kind of resonates with me too, whereas like, if you have a choice to come back, I feel like I've already passed these levels, and I chose to come back to help raise the vibration of earth.
For sure. 100% you did.
In order to help it ascend its consciousness and help other people ascend their consciousness. I feel like I chose to come back in order to, do what I'm doing now, which is wild. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I love it. Oh, so fun. Thank you. I could be here with you all day.
No problem. I appreciate it.
Anything, find you on your Instagram? Where can people find you? Because they need to follow you.
Instagram, I'm sure you'll link it like wherever.
Yes, it'll be in the show notes.
Instagram is Sheldon Thompson 369, and my TikTok is Infinite Light 369, and I'm active on both of those. So go ahead and follow me, and you can shoot me a DM if you want to. If you got any questions, I'm always an open book. And yeah.
Thank you.
No problem at all.